Hi, I'm Angie Hilton and welcome to Unbreakable Entrepreneurs. As business owners, major challenges are inevitable. So how do we steel ourselves to weather the storms? Here, you'll find real-life stories of resilience, as well as tips from thought leaders and mental health experts on how to become unbreakable entrepreneurs. Justine Martin's successful corporate life was turned upside down in 2011 when she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Since then, she has battled 3 cancers and overcome a long list of serious medical conditions. Rather than allowing her hardship to overcome her, she's used it as a platform to inspire and make a difference in the lives of others. Welcome, Justine. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on. So exciting.
Oh, it's great that you reached out. I love connecting with people that I haven't met in the community, especially with such amazing stories like you're about to share. But to start with, can you give us a little bit of a background of where you've come from? Because you're not originally a Geelong girl, are you?
No, I was born and bred here.
Oh, you were? I don't know what. I thought you were from Perth, but you moved over there.
No, I moved. I left Geelong when I was about 2, obviously with my parents, and we moved to Melbourne till I was around about 9, and then up to Sydney till I was just under 11, and then from Sydney to Glen Innes, a small country town in northern New South Wales, and we're only supposed to be there 12 months, and I left 23 years later and moved to WA, and then moved to Perth, and then came back here nearly 11 years ago. So
right,
been all around the country.
You have, and you had children along the way. You've got 2.
I do. I have Zachariah, who's 29, who runs his own big business in Townsville, and I've got a daughter who's 25 who's just started her first business here in Geelong.
Right. And I do believe you have 6 grandchildren, if I have it right, but you don't look like a grandma. How did that happen?
Soon to be 7. There's another one due in about 10 weeks. So all very exciting. Yeah, they're good breeders. That's all.
They sure are. And it's great to have your daughter in town with you.
Yeah, sure is. She's only 5 minutes away, and she works for me as well, so she's a big support.
Okay, now can you give us a snapshot of your business? But what I guess for the business we need
Which one?
I know. You've got your fingers in a few pies, haven't you? So you moved to Perth. What were you doing over there, and what made you move back to Geelong?
So I did lots of different jobs in WA. I was a Weight Watchers leader, all up for around about 10 years. So in New South Wales, and then transferred to WA, and then I became a Tupperware manager, and I was number 4 in the country for a little while in personal sales. And $150,000 a year in plastic I used to sell. It was a lot of plastic to bag up, I can tell you. And then I got back into the weight loss industry, and I was a program director for Jenny Craig, and I've run for the federal election a couple of times, once in WA and then once over here for the seat of Corio, actually. Wow. Would never do it again. And yes, I was in what I thought was my dream job as a program director. And then I got sick, and I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in March 2011. And I was told by my specialist at the time that I'd never be able to work again. And I plummeted down into a deep, dark hole, as you do. And my fiance at the time, who I was with, suggested that we move back to be closer to my family, because we didn't have any family support. And my son had just gone off to the army, and my daughter was at home with me, and I was in and out of hospital quite a bit, and he worked in the mine, so it was becoming quite tricky. So we moved back to Geelong in December 2011, and it all kind of went from there. And the one thing my neurologist told me was to find a hobby. And because I was going to have a lot of time in my hands, and idle hands lead you down a very bad pathway. And So I'd always wanted to learn how to paint, and I thought I'll do that one day when I retire. When I retire,
Yeah.
I'll do the hobbies that I want to do, and which is a really bad decision. Anyway, I went to art class. I was the youngest by about 25 years at that time. Everyone else, like everyone my age, was still working, and it didn't matter. I was there to learn, the techniques, and also to socialize and to get back into the community, because we know what it's like when we're locked down and you don't have hobbies and there's nothing to do except for watch TV, and I can only tolerate that for so long. Normally, not even a day nowadays, but so that's how it kind of happened. And I moved over here and entered an art exhibition in Drysdale and sold my first piece for $300. And that
what
could
a
have
feeling.
it was amazing, because I'd solely become reliant financially on another human being. And he had to put food in my mouth and a roof over mine and my children's heads, and I'd always been fiercely independent and financially independent, that all of a sudden that was taken away. And so I knew that I wanted to contribute back to society. I just didn't know how, and I didn't want to be a burden on society. And then when I sold that first piece, it could have been $3 million. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I can still earn my own money.
Wow.
And that's been a big driving force for all of it. It's kind of just snowballed the last 10 years.
What it is now. Can we flick back? So before you were diagnosed, what was the lead up to that? What were you noticing?
My vision went, and it was like someone had smeared Vaseline across my eyes, and it was quite scary because it happened while I was driving. Wow. And my daughter had to direct me off the Polyfarmer freeway in Perth, and we sat on the side of the road going, how are we going to get home? So that then led me to the GP, and then I've got a cyst in my brain as well that was discovered a few years prior to that, and it had never been fully investigated. So within 24 hours, I was sitting in a neurosurgeon's office thinking they were going to cut my brain open. But then it took 5 to 6 months after that to get diagnosed with the MS. But my left arm went funny. I couldn't raise it. My face became all tingly. My nose was all tingly. I have cognitive issues. I can't count properly anymore. I'm a little bit better than what I used to be. I couldn't even tell a normal time. Digital, I was all right, but a normal clock, I couldn't. And I was in the advanced class in maths, so you can imagine how much it had changed. I couldn't use money. I couldn't give change. So all those things, started to happen. And my mum had MS, so I was well aware of what, some of the symptoms were. And I kept asking the doctors, oh, is this MS? And they're like, oh, no, it's your migraines. And I'm like, yeah, no. After 25 years, you want to tell me why my migraines have changed when there's no pain when any of this was happening. So anyway, they ended up doing lumbar punctures, and it's MS. So, I won the lottery. Joke around and say I won the lottery. It was just the wrong lottery. And then my health continued to then downward spiral as well, because then in 2013, 14 and 15, I had heart procedures. And then 2016, I had a condition called lividio reticularis, where I was going purple like a zombie. And then,
oh my gosh.
That then led me to being diagnosed with melanoma when they were looking for lymphoma.
Oh my gosh.
And then I got another blood condition called mixed cryoglobulinemia, where I was making too much protein in my blood and it was choking me off internally, which then they knew I had lymphoma because I'd had bone marrow biopsies and all of that, but they didn't know what type. And then in January 2017, I was diagnosed with chronic lymphocystic leukemia and small lymphocystic lymphoma. So I had 3 primary cancers and 2 blood conditions with the MS as well. And I was still trying to build my businesses all the way through it.
My goodness. And as you're finding out all of these diagnoses,
Yeah.
What's going through your brain? Are you thinking, when will this ever end, and how do I cope
Oh,
with
look, I'm like that every day. It's like there's
Ah.
always something my body fails me in one way or another. At the moment, I've got low cortisol levels, and so I'm quite well known at Geelong Hospital and the doctors and pathology and that. And look, none of us know what our fate is going to be. None of us know how much time we have left on the planet. So you've just got to make the most of what you do. And I've just recently been in the National Outlook magazine for NDIS talking about procrastination. And that's one thing that I don't tend to do anymore is procrastinate. People say to me all the time, oh, how do you get everything done? Do you have more hours in your day? And look, I don't. Time is precious. It's the most precious commodity on the planet. You can't buy it, sell it, reuse it, or borrow it. So be very careful on what you spend it on and who you spend it on. And if I have a task to do, I'll do that task, because if it takes more time and energy and procrastinating than if you just get in and do the bloody thing that you don't want to do to start with, and then get onto the good things. So
you're doing numerous things right now. So if you give us a snapshot of everything you've got going on in your life.
Okay, so it became evident that we had to brand under Justine Martin Corporation, because there was just too many little branches off everywhere. And my PR girl's like, how do I answer the phone? So we streamlined it down to JMC. And so Just Art was the first business that was born, so to speak. And that now comprises of a gallery at Cafe Zoo. A lot of you may have seen my work out at Cafe Zoo with Mark and Julie, and they're fantastic out there. I do art wellness classes to other people with disabilities, and I have some teachers that come in and help with that now, as well as I do hands-on teaching. I've got a gallery here at in Marshall, in my home, and for the locals that drive past will know I've got like a big giraffe in the front yard and a 6-meter sausage dog along the fence. So yeah, you'll have to drive past Ange and have a look one day.
Hard to miss.
The house it's very hard to miss. The house is like all my corporate colours on the outside, with the lime green and the hot pink and the purple and the turquoise.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And people, like the neighbours now, know that I actually live here. It's not it is my home. And so that was Just Art. And I do lots of commission works as well in sculptures and paintings. And then Resilience Mindset was born, and because people were always asking me, how am I so positive all the time? What's your secret? How do you get through all the adversities that you've faced? If that was us, we'd be a blubbering mess in the corner. And I'm like, no, you wouldn't, because you find this inner strength when things happen. But anyway, so now I'm a resilience consultant, coach. I go into businesses and I talk about the 10 top tips in staying resilient. So in order for a business to be resilient, your employees have to be resilient first. And if they're not coping, then the business isn't going to cope. So, and it might be yourself as the employer or your employees. So I teach the 10 top tips workshop on how to overcome the adversities that you're facing, and some things that some strategies to put in place daily to help you through what's happening at home and as well as at work. I've co-authored 4 books so far. And I've got one coming out on the 1st of October, which I can't wait. And
what's that one called?
That one's called Victim to Victory. So it's a new one, but I'm also writing a book on resilience at the moment, and that'll be out early next year. From Resilience Mindset as well, I have my own podcast called Resilience Mindset Podcast, and just about to launch season 2, which is fantastic. And then there's a book coming out early next year on season 1. So each season has its own book that's coming through. Now, I wrote and illustrated a children's book last year and couldn't find a publisher that would do what I wanted it to do. So I started my own publishing company with Morpheus Publishing.
Of course you did.
And the first book that we launched was Same But Different. And that's a children's book on equality and inclusion. And it's for any age, because adults will get something out of it by reading it, as well as children. And I'm illustrating other people's books as well, and as well as publishing other people's books. Gogh Decals is another business I've got, and that's my decals in large decals for caravans and camper vans. And if you want to put them on your car, you can put them on your car. But it's more to aid memory loss for, you know, the grey nomads that are out there now, you know, traveling around Australia, and you pull your caravan into a caravan park, and you can't find it because they all start looking the same after a period of time. So it's to help with memory loss as well. And then I've just launched a cleaning business with my daughter called Geelong Residential Cleaners, and we're doing that for NDIS clients and end of lease clients as well.
Goodness.
So I think that's all. I do a writing group on a Friday from 12 to 2. So anyone that's looking to write their own book. And there's so many people I hear, I've always wanted to write a book. I'm like, well, just do it. You know, just do it. No one ever has to read it, but, you know, write it down, and then we'll work out what we're going to do with it.
My gosh.
And then I do.
There's more.
There's more. There's finger painting for grown-ups.
That sounds fun.
It is fun. Come along and learn how to finger paint, and it's not what you would think that it is. It's not what you learn in primary school. These are professional paintings by the time that you finished, and I won't let you walk out with something that isn't good enough to hang on the wall.
Really?
So.
Golly, what the first thing that comes to mind is, were you always this way, this driven, or has it been since you became ill?
I've always been this driven.
Yeah.
And I've always been one of these ones that if I'm going to do it, I excel then in it.
You do it properly.
Always been like that. Should have seen me before I got sick.
I cannot even imagine. Is this you in slow mode? Wow.
Yeah, this is me in slow mo. But you know, I faced a major adversity when I couldn't work anymore, and part of me, and now, and I thought I was in my dream job, Angie, but I wasn't, because, you know, I'm living my best life now and helping as many people as I possibly can. You know, I'm a keynote speaker. I go out and I talk about my story, and I talk about resilience and how you can overcome it. And, you know, I teach people on not to give up, but to modify what you're actually doing. Do I like that I have MS? No. I hate it. Do I accept that I have MS? Yes, I do. I accept that it's part of my life now, and I have to modify things around it. I have a big support network that gets me to where I am. You know, I do have NDIS funding, and I wouldn't be able to function or, you know, do things that I do without that funding behind me. Do I have bad days? Yeah, I have lots of bad days. I recently lost my partner, and 6 weeks ago. And
gosh, I'm so sorry.
I'm still, you know, I'm still processing all of that. And I didn't die that day. He did, but I didn't. And I've just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And that's the key, is just be kind to yourself, put one foot in front of the other, and keep, you know, moving forward. Modify what you do for the short term. You know, I've called in more help. I've called in more staff to help until, you know, I'm back to full capacity. Self-care is so important for us all.
Important, yes.
And we don't do enough self-care because we're taught that that's selfish to do that. And I think through the pandemic, a lot of people more realize, you know, how important self-care actually is, and things like having hobbies is important.
Having fun, scheduling fun. We forget to play and, you know, lighten up.
That's right.
If you think back to your darkest days, I suppose, like, would that have been the first diagnosis, or did it spiral
There's
from
been
there?
a few.
Yeah.
Being diagnosed with MS was shattering. I ended up on antidepressants, had full-blown depression from it. You know, here I was for years and years and years being told I would never get MS. MS isn't hereditary. You won't get it. You kids have nothing to worry about, the doctors used to say to my brother and I. And then when I was diagnosed 2 weeks after turning 40, my earth just shattered. The world that I knew and existed up until that day in March 2011 no longer existed. It was like someone had just slapped me across the face, put a bucket of cold water over me, and life was going to be different, and it needed to be different in order to keep moving forward. And I saw what this disease did to my mother. And I mean, she passed away from complications from it at the age of 49, and here I was sitting at 40, and it's like, well, that was mum's journey. That's not my journey. And I'm going to do everything in my power to create the best quality of life that I possibly can for however long that actually is. And that's what it's been to me, is it's all about quality, not quantity. And I was a very vocal voluntary assisted dying advocate, and was used in Andrew Denton's Go Gentle campaign for that. And you know, I have enough things going wrong with my body, let alone worrying about what end of life is going to feel like or look like. And I just wanted the choice. So it was a really, really dark time. And, you know, I didn't bounce back straight away either from that. It's not like, oh, I got diagnosed and then the next day I was painting, and it didn't happen that way. It took me 4 months to walk through an art studio door back then, just because the anxiety was so bad that I was feeling. And now I recognize what anxiety feels like, what it does to my body, and then I can address it a lot sooner than what I let it get to at that particular point in time. And you know, being diagnosed with a cancer, and not one cancer but 3, was
that is
just
baffling.
Yeah, I can remember them ringing me. So I went to the dermatologist to confirm that it was Lividio, and she looked at my feet and went, yep, I don't need to do a biopsy, but when was the last time you had a skin check done? When my former GP did one, because my GP at the time that I was seeing turned around and said to me when I went in about being purple, said, oh, don't worry about it, come back in 4 months if it's still happening. And if I'd listened to her, I wouldn't be here today. So, and there's another lesson, you know, if you're not happy with what your medical profession has said to you, go and get a second opinion. We live in a country that you can go and get second or third opinions in things. And I'm glad I did, because that's why I'm still here by doing that. And so, you know, I was walking through Corio Village, because there's a great dress store out there, and they've rung me, and because I had a biopsy on this tiny little mole on my leg, and said, you've got a melanoma. And I'm like, no, I meant to have lymphoma, not melanoma. So, you know, I was getting my head around the fact that I, you know, potentially would have lymphoma, and then they whacked me with melanoma on there as well. And
my goodness.
Even my blood specialist couldn't believe you know, what I've been through and what I continue to go through. And you know, my story's not over yet. And I'm out there telling my story because it's someone else's survival guide. You know, someone's probably sitting there listening today that something in my story resonates enough with them that they improve their quality of life.
Absolutely. Or trust that intuition to go and get a second opinion. Or actually, even when you say that, I had a mark on my face in COVID that a few people had dismissed. And I said to the doctor, well, if it's nothing, can you just get rid of it, because it's annoying to cover with makeup? And they took it, and they said that was the start of melanoma as well. And I think it's made me think,
no one knows our body better than what we do. No one knows our body better than us. And, you know, I've sat across from doctors, and I'll say, oh, you know, this is how I'm feeling, or, you know, this is what's happened. And they'll be like, oh, no, it doesn't. It's like, well, hang on. I'm the one living it.
Yes. So
Yeah, it is. And you need to investigate it further because I'm not
yeah.
happy with what you've said.
Yeah.
Not
So
happy at all.
trust your
So
gut along the
yeah,
way. Yeah.
yeah.
And so your treatment for the cancers, what, are you in remission? What are they saying about the cancers now?
So I was in remission up until March. I did 12 months of chemo. So I had bendamustine, which is a derivative of the mustard gas from World War One.
Whoa.
And then I did another 18 months of rituximab, which is an immunosuppressant. That put me into remission from them all. I've had more asymptomatic cancers or melanomas removed, and I go to the skin specialist every 12 months to get checked up on those ones. I was in full remission from the other cancers until March this year, and then having COVID and being vaxxed was enough to spike the levels. And because there's no cure for cancer, so you always have the cancer cells in you. They're just at a low level in your blood that is either not quite detectable or it's at a level that they don't consider it being active. And by having COVID and then being compromised with my immune system being compromised with the vaccinations was enough for my good cells to come down and my bad cells to start populating again. And that's what happened. And that's since settled down, but I'm like borderline, and I'm very, very aware that, you know, it doesn't take much for those bad cells to actually, and I say bad cells rather than cancer cells, the bad cells to come back up and peak again. So that was a real eye-opener again. It's like, you know, life is really precious, and I'm not invincible. It still likes to remind me that it's around and that. And then I'm dealing with low cortisol issues at the moment through the shock of finding him dead. And
oh my gosh.
so it's like I don't need any more chapters for the book. Thanks. So I've got enough to work on now.
And you're amazing. Like you deliver all this really heavy news with us. A lot of the time, you've got a smile on your face. I can just see
because life's too short to be negative all the time, and I can't change the past. I can accept what's happened, and I do accept it. I've had a lot of counseling, a lot of therapy to get to this point. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be sitting in the corner rocking, so to speak. I'm very proactive now in my mental health in regularly seeing a counselor, and have seen the same one now for 9 years, who knows me well enough that I can go in there and she can tell, you know, pretty much what's happening. And she's ridden this wave with me as well. So because I believe it's not my family or my friends' responsibility for me to offload on them. They've got enough. I'll pay someone to I can offload.
I agree.
And huge difference to your mental health when you do that.
Absolutely.
You're not bottling it all up and carrying it around.
And you can walk in and you can just go blur, and you're not feeling guilty that am I taking up too much of your time, or it's just a space just for you to
where's the tissues?
Let it all out.
Let it all out. Let it all out. And then it's like, see you in a fortnight. And I do have her on speed dial sometimes that I can call, and she'll fit me in for an emergency appointment. And you've really got to have a team behind you in all your like when you've got as much wrong as what I do. With your medical team that you're comfortable and you're happy. And, you know, I say to my hematologist, you know, all the time, you saved my life. You saved my life. And she did. She fought for me. You want people behind you that are fighting for you, and that you can ask questions and all those nitty-gritty questions, because it's your life that you're talking about. And we only get one of those.
Yes. I'm curious to know, do you have a spirituality behind what you do, or like do you turn to something higher when it gets all too much? No.
I'm not religious after everything that I've been through, and each to their own. We all have our own beliefs, and For me personally, no.
Mm.
I go to art. I do
Mm.
art.
That's your
Painting,
meditation. Yeah.
painting has become, and drawing has become, my form of meditation. I just
Mm.
so happen to be pretty good at it, and I make money from it as well nowadays. But there's some pieces that, you know, may never see the light of day.
Mm.
And I do lots of different types of art. I say the pretty commercial pictures, or I call it disposable art.
Yeah.
You know, even my art, I call it disposable art because, you know, it's decor for the house. And when people update the decor, they'll update their art. But then I do have serious art that has meaning behind it as well. And they don't tend to sell too much because they're personal pieces.
And you
some of them
probably don't
even
want to get rid of them either when they're part of you. Yeah.
I've learned to now paint smaller when I'm doing that, because I've got some real big ones. It's like, where am I going to keep them? But yeah, so painting has become my form of meditation, and that's how I started to finger paint, because at the end of when I was going through chemo and with the mixed cryoglobulinemia, I lost the ability to hold a paintbrush and hold a pen, and it's like, oh my God, you know, here's the one thing that was making me happy, and I can't do that anymore. And I kept getting tagged in some Facebook posts of an artist overseas, and I looked at her finger painting, and I went, and she was doing it with oils, and I went, oh, I think I can do that with acrylic, and I did. And
wow.
then finger painting for grown-ups started not too long ago.
Can I ask that with the MS, how does it affect you on a day-to-day basis, and sort of what treatments changing? Are they getting more advanced?
So on a day-to-day basis, I'm tired. I suffer with fatigue to the point that I'm nauseated if I don't watch it. There's a thing called the spoon theory, that we all have a certain amount of spoons per day. You would probably have 50, I might have 20. Just even having a conversation like this uses up a spoon. So I have to really watch how much I'm doing. If I have a busy day, one day, the next day, I have to wind it all back. I work on the lounge a lot with my feet up, with a laptop on my lap. I work probably different hours than the average person, because I find I have more energy later on in the day and in the evening than in the morning. I suffer with a lot of nerve pain out of my feet, leg spasms, feet spasms, my toes all spasm up, which makes it really difficult to walk at times. The more fatigued I am, the colder I am, and I can't regulate my body temperature. And that's a real issue here in Victoria. It doesn't seem to happen too much in the northern states. I'm one of the 10 percentiles of MSs that I'm cold affected, not heat affected.
Right.
So winter, I really hurt. I ache. But I'm also proactive in that I weight train 3 days a week. Even on my shitty days, I still tend to walk in, and I've got a PT that helps me. And I compete in strongman events,
really,
as well as in all abilities. Yeah, I've just won 2 titles this year.
Oh my gosh!
At Strong Geelong, as an all abilities athlete. So, you know, it is a mind thing. It is, you know, I could sit back and go, well, I can't weightlift anymore because I've got MS. Like, yeah, right. No, I'm just going to keep doing it because that's what I've, you know, done. We've modified training, we've modified things, but I'm still walking in and I'm still doing all of that. So, every day is different with MS. You never know what your body's going to do. I've woken up before when I couldn't put my feet on the ground for the pain that I was in, and therefore couldn't walk, and then had to go to hospital for 3 weeks and then learn how to walk again. So,
my gosh.
You just never know. Never know what's going to happen. But in the same token, you just keep walking forward, you keep moving forward, you recognize the past, but you don't live in the past, and you look for a brighter, better future. So, and happiness, mindset. You know, make yourself happy.
Yes. Okay, so if you had to give some people some top tips for resilience, where would you start?
self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Treat yourself as a god or a goddess, because if you're not happy, no one else around you is going to be happy.
So true.
So, just simple things, getting enough sleep, make sure you're eating right, exercise, make sure you're moving. There's a few really good tips there, and just work on one thing at a time. Don't look at doing everything at once. That can be quite overwhelming. Just work on, are you getting enough sleep? Are you going to bed early enough? Are you getting up early enough? Do you get up the first time the alarm goes off, or do you hit it and then roll back over? There's a really good video to watch. It's a TED Talk Mel Robbins put out on the 5-second rule. And I do the 5-second rule all the time. So when the alarm goes off, you get out of bed straight away. And if you're tired, well, then go to bed earlier that night. And make sure you're getting whatever your body requires in sleep. Because if you don't get enough sleep, then that'll affect absolutely everything the next day, and then the day after, and the day after.
Yep. Do you have a mantra you live by?
There's no such word as can't.
That's so fitting for you, and after everything you've just said. What about, do you have a favorite quote, or doesn't have to be very favorite, but a quote that comes to mind?
Yeah, mine.
My
quote. The one that I said, time is the most precious commodity. You can't buy it, sell it, reuse it, or borrow it. So be careful on what you spend it on and whom you spend it on.
Yes, that is gold. So true. Did you find that when your life had to change, that you did end up culling people out of your life when you say who you
They culled me.
Interesting.
It's amazing when you're diagnosed with like major adversities like I have been, that people don't know how to talk to you. And when I was diagnosed with MS, I lost good friends, and people who I thought that were acquaintances stepped up and did things for me, whereas who I thought would have didn't. The same with cancer. They could handle me having MS, but then there were other friends that couldn't handle me that when I had cancer, and I always get, I didn't know how to talk to you, and I'm like, I'm the same person. And again, like with Dean dying, I saw a woman the other day, and she goes, oh, sorry, I haven't been in contact, I haven't known what to say. And I'm like, I'm the same person. And
what advice
I think it brings forward other people's own fears in themselves, not actually
100%.
Who the other person is.
I've heard many people say that. I just don't know what to say. What should people say, or what shouldn't they say? Like, have you got any advice for people?
They should just say, I'm here for you. I have an ear, I'll sit and listen. That's all you have to say. Know that I'm there for you. Yeah, reach out if you need me.
That's great.
I'm sorry that you're going through this. How can I help?
Yeah.
What can I do to help? What can I do to lighten the burden? That's all you have to say.
Yeah.
All you have to say. Just know that I'm there for you. If you need me, just reach out. I'll check in a couple of days to see how you're going. And if they need something doing, go and do it for them. Most people won't ask for help, but
yeah, this is true.
Yeah, their pride gets in the way.
Now, you've got behind you power, purpose, passion. Why those particular words?
Because that's all about me. Yeah. The power of the story, the purpose of the story, and the passion behind it.
What are you still wanting to achieve?
I don't know.
I haven't thought about it.
I have said no more businesses. 6 is enough.
But you're an ideas girl. I imagine the ideas just keep flowing.
So what's next for me? More staff. I can see this definitely, expanding. More staff. No more businesses, but making the businesses bigger. and going on the road, being a keynote speaker, and I'm getting opportunities around the country now to go and talk, and international as well, and that's what I see. That's where my passion lies, in trying to help as many people as I possibly can while I'm still on the planet. That's why I have the podcast, that's why I'm writing the books, and that's why I'm going out and doing the speaking gigs, and the workshops as well. So if anyone knows of any opportunities whatsoever, feel free to give me a call.
Well, you are incredible. And I would love to arrange an art workshop for chamber members. Is that something that you would come and do?
Yeah, cool.
Let's do
a
bit of finger painting.
We'd love to.
Great.
Yeah, I did a big one on the weekend with 20 people. So they're always fun.
Incredible. Well, we just want to thank you so much for sharing your story. My gosh, it's just, I think anytime people get these life curveballs, you might be the person that they think about to get through, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, endless curveballs, and you're still smiling and you're amazing and inspiring other people. So thank you for sharing your story, and we absolutely want to get our community to connect in with you. So let's make it happen, hey? If you have any spare time. I don't think you have any spare time.
No, I've always got spare time. I can always shuffle and remember, modify.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you, Justine, and we will catch up again very, very soon. And if people want to find you to have a bit of a chat or book you, where can they head?
They can go to justinemartin.com.au, or they can pop into me in Marshall. I'm in Barwari Road with the big giraffe out the front.
Can't miss it. So is that a gallery that people can actually come and visit?
Yeah, it is. We're open on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and by appointment as well. So, and
your artwork is available online as well to access?
Yeah, it's available on justart.com.au, and you can go out to Cafe Zoo in Drystyle, and there's some out there as well.
All right. Well, I'm certainly going to check out that big giraffe. So I'll honk my horn if I'm driving past.
Do that. Lots of people do. And lots of people now stand out the front and tag me in on Instagram, which is JUZT_ART, or Resilience Mindset with Justine Martin on Instagram, or Justine Martin Corporation on LinkedIn. So we
can find you everywhere, and that's a great thing. Looking forward to catching up again. Thank you, Justine.
Thank you.
We'll see you around.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. Bye. I'm Angie Hilton, and thanks for listening to Unbreakable Entrepreneurs Podcast. If you've enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and head to geelongchamber.com.au for more wellbeing tips. This has been brought to you by the Geelong Chamber of Commerce and the Partners in Wellbeing program.